Good evening and welcome to Starcast from Planet Waves. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with a special supplemental edition accompanying the November 21st Thursday edition of Planet Waves. This morning, news broke that the International Criminal Court in The Hague, in the Netherlands, in Holland, issued both criminal indictments and arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, who was recently fired as the defense minister of Israel. And these indictments and warrants are in relation to atrocities committed by Israel in Gaza over the course of the past year that Israel is allegedly claiming to have been defending itself against the attack on Sukkot last October 7th, 8th, depending on your time zone. I worked with some of my readers this morning to trace the time of the announcement by the International Criminal Court back. We have a working chart for 12:45 p.m. Central European Time. But no matter what, it is impossible to miss that this is a chart for the second full day of Pluto now in its run through Aquarius for the next 19 years. This is one of the very first major defining events of Pluto in Aquarius. So we get a sense of what this new era can be and may be about. And I will come back to that a little bit later in this discussion, so hold on for that. First, a couple of thoughts. First, neither the United States nor Israel are members of the International Criminal Court Treaty. It was based on this that Israel claimed that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over it. The ICC consists of 120 or 40-something countries bound by a treaty that is a legacy of the Holocaust, such that there is a permanent standing war crimes tribunal in The Hague. I've actually been to this building when I was living in Europe. When I got to Netherlands, where I spent a lot of time, the first things I did, among them, were go to The Hague and visit the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, and the ICC, the International Criminal Court, making creative use of my press credentials. So I understand, I have a physical, tangible sense that these places exist. The ICC is basically housed in a prison. I think it was formerly some kind of electrical facility, but it looks for all the world like a prison surrounded by barbed wire, where various international war criminals are held. That said, the ICC has no arrest power. It does not have a police force that it can send out. If the Ulster County Court issues an arrest warrant, then basically any police officer in New York State can arrest the suspect or the person with the warrant. That does not exist. However, it makes it difficult for Netanyahu or Gallant to visit member states where they undoubtedly will be arrested. So in some ways, this is a symbolic gesture, but we can at least say now that Benjamin Netanyahu is an indicted war criminal. It has been very difficult to say anything against Netanyahu or Israel, lest one be accused of being anti-Semitic. And, of course, among the first words out of Netanyahu's mouth this morning when the news of this indictment came through was that it was anti-Semitic. So, if you object to anything that Israel does, that's anti-Semitic. So this is the equivalent of now. For example, it's very similar to the logical structure where if you speak against feminist dogma, you are a misogynist. And so everything has got to be pushed into an extreme polarization. So there's a lot of interesting features in this chart, and it's going to be talking for a while. though I think that it is fair, and what I did not do in my article was I did not critique the chart for the possibility that this is some kind of a diversion, distraction, or a false flag incident. And I'm going to do that first before we go on, which would qualify as a kind of a test of radicality. It is worth noting that in recent days, the proxy war by the United States against Russia was ramped up using the launch of long-range missiles shot from Ukraine at Russia. This is a major escalation in this war. There's an unlocked New York Times article on my Facebook page, EFC 1964. By the way, I do a lot of posting to my personal Facebook page and keeping up with the news events. That's a good place to follow my work if you like to follow day to day, hour to hour. I don't do any other social media platforms personally. All right. So there is one important note of caution in this chart, and that is that this event takes place on the solar return of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The assassination of JFK, as everyone knows, was 11/22/63. However, the sun in the JFK assassination chart was at 29 Scorpio 44, void of course, and the sun in this chart is at 29 Scorpio 39, void of course. The void of course sun is cautionary, but it does not outright say that there is some kind of a false flag going on, some kind of a thing that is, again, intended to distract or disrupt or to be blamed on the wrong person. But it is cautionary given all of the problems with the scenario in the JFK assassination. Now, what makes this so interesting, this whole event so noteworthy and so relevant, is that there has basically been next to no objection by any public authority of any kind that there's anything whatsoever wrong with Israel claiming to have been attacked by Hezbollah, which is like 5 minutes away, and somehow the most advanced intelligence operation in the world, the Mossad, somehow missed this. So that is curious, and it is entirely untrustworthy. It is not vaguely credible that Israel did not know that this was coming, and then Israel's response was to go absolutely disproportionate, full bore, over the top, massacre and destroy everyone and everything in Gaza. I do not know how there's a single person left alive there. And then on top of that, to starve them. And although I have not read the indictment, I'm aware that it includes the charge of attempting to murder the Palestinian people by starving them and by withholding humanitarian aid. And that we all know has been happening. But it is still, it has twisted my mind to see this go on for the past more than 13 months, and so few people have been able to speak up. Now, I have a lot of Jewish friends. If I ever want to be friends with them again sometime in the future, I can't bring this up. I go to visit their homes. I correspond with them. These are people I have sometimes known for a long time, and they have no influence on the situation at all. So I'm not here to tell them that they are deceived, but this situation is something that pretty much everyone who objects to this situation, and what is not to object to here, that everyone who objects to the situation has had to face. I personally don't care if I'm called anti-Semitic. That's a fucking joke. But to me, it is not worth getting into scrapes with friends I've had for 20, 30, 40 years over this kind of a thing. So the world is in a much worse situation where whole countries can't point out what another country is doing. That would be meaningful. That would make sense. And so this is the first time that any official body has made a statement, and it is quite a statement. Now, is this real? it would seem to be so daring that it has to be real. And one of the things that the Void of Course Sun says to me is, and this is a delineation that I've had of the Void of Course Sun, for a long time, since reading mundane astrology, that very unusual, atypical kinds of things can happen when the sun is void. Now, I didn't say what that is. The sun is void when it is way, way at the end of a sign and not making any more aspects to major planets. Is like this kind of door opens up, and it is between, the sun is like between the worlds, and we're kind of following along with it, between the worlds. It's a little difficult to explain this, but it's the sun is not really acting fully like the sun. And if the sun represents some kind of authority, some kind of regal authority, it would make sense that the sun is void of course in Scorpio for this to happen, because under normal circumstances, which we've lived through for the past year, the normal circumstance of Israel massacring civilians backed by the United States, with everyone paralyzed, not being able to say anything, it would have to happen under some kind of conditions like this. Now, I will add further before I dive even deeper into this chart that these kind of events always look plausible at first, and we have to wait till the facts come out. But they always grab the headlines, and it was always like, wow, this is interesting. But so far, and I've spent quite a bit of time with this chart, I just wrote a lengthy article about it. I spent the morning looking around at what was going on, and then cast the astrology, marked up the chart, which is a careful reading, added all the asteroids and centaurs, read as much coverage as I could, sent that to the proofreaders, and now I'm joining you for the audio version of this. And in working between audio and writing, you get a different mode of expression. You can't really make as many parenthetical statements in writing and so forth. So anyway, here is the absolutely stunning thing about this chart, which is that Pluto is newly in Aquarius and Pluto is rising. The timing of this chart is very important, but we have about an 8-minute margin of error on this time. It could go back as early as 12:38, but it looks to me like those initial tweets went out at 12:45 and 12:46 p.m. Central European time. And when those tweets went out, Pluto, newly nascent, just newborn permanently in Aquarius for the next 19 years, is in the ascendant 2 arc minutes of Pluto and 1 degree 47 minutes of Aquarius. Also rising is this kind of retinue that is traveling with Pluto at this time. Pluto's arrival in Aquarius for its final arrival has come with some fanfare. Asteroid Child is there, indicating the need to keep an eye on the theme of what is going on with children in the world, in the digital age. And then as well as 2 centaurs. They're slow-moving points. They're not asteroids. 2 slow-moving points that are Chiron-like, very erratic orbits. And Amicus is a centaur associated with outright vicious brutality. The very worst behavior of the centaurs, mythological centaurs, is indicated in Centaur Amicus, which is in a very close conjunction, meaning it is a shave of about 13 arc minutes, less than 1/4 of 1 degree, and this is called Aureus. I spoke a bit about these things last week. Aureus is associated with very intense actors, people who are no bullshit activists, artists, and businessmen. So it shows up, for example, in the chart of Nelson Mandela, as well as the chart of Bill Gates and a couple of other, a lot of other people. I wrote this article, though, in like around 2013, and I'll link to this article about Aureus. So if you were questioning that there's any meaning to Pluto arriving in Aquarius, and I was kind of waiting to see what was going to happen first, and now this transition's gone on over the past 18 months, but this is the big one. This is the big deal where Pluto arrives for 19 years to stay in Aquarius. I'm thinking there's going to be something early on that describes what this is about. And what Aquarius is the stable, seemingly stable, intractably stable world order that has arisen in the digital age. And what we get with Pluto entering this world order is the shakeup of that, right? So Pluto disrupts whatever it comes in contact with. It transforms whatever it comes in contact with. And here we see Pluto doing some serious disruption to the world order. This is a one-of-a-kind thing happening. I mean, it would not have ever occurred to me that the International Criminal Court could even possibly indict Bibi Netanyahu for doing this stuff, because one would assume that the fix was in. It was not possible for them to act or make any move on him. So this seems highly improbable, but it also could represent some shift in the world order. And one of the qualities of the digital age, and we saw this during COVID, is that things just get worse and worse and worse, and there's no going back. There's no reversing. I think that the public authorities have learned to just not back down at all. Never brook the conversation. Never admit that anything is wrong. Never even contemplate the possibility that public opinion or some meek opinion coming out of the press might in any way have any validity whatsoever. On Tuesday, I spent most of the day doing an interview with some filmmakers where, for the first time, I told the story of what it was like living through COVID as a journalist, tracking the story hour to hour with a team, knowing what I'm doing, and we watched this happen. We watched this thing build and develop and gather speed and gather steam and completely enraptured almost all of the public, with rare exceptions. And then we're watching what's going on behind the scenes, and chunk after chunk of this scenario are being ripped out to the point where the entire foundation was gone, and yet they, the big they, whoever they are, whoever is the super editor-in-chief of the New York Times and everything else, just kept stoking this and driving it right toward a claimed vaccine, no matter what came out. And that is what it has seemed like is going on in with Israel in Gaza and the West Bank, that no matter how atrocious this becomes, their response is just to be even more atrocious. So I am still amazed that this has even happened. Okay, so we've got this Pluto in Aquarius rising. You can see that in the chart with highlighted in green. That is, I have to make a new scan of this chart, but you can see that green line should go up to where Pluto is. I'll probably rescan this, but you can still, whichever chart I use, you can still see it. And so that group is rising. It's very close together. It's because you have to write it out in pencil. It looks like it's further apart, but they're really all basically in the same place in the sky, rising exactly at that moment. So welcome to a new era. Now, if we go back to the 7th place, look exactly across the chart. I've circled this in a kind of a light blue spiral. You see Mars on the 7th house. Mars is stationary retrograde, and it is also conjunct a point called Vulcanus. Mars will station retrograde in 2 degrees from now. That's on December the 5th or 7th or something like that, right in the first week of December. And right now, as it approaches the station retrograde, it is conjunct this highly volatile point called Volcanus. That's one of the trans-Neptunian points, a planet without a body. And the planets without a body work very closely in concert with the planets with bodies. They modify the energy. They, in this case, intensify the energy. Mars is already slow and powerful, and here it is sitting on the western horizon, exactly conjunct Volcanus. So there, I think, is going to be a lot of blowback from this, as seen by Mars on the 7th house. This is going to be very combative. I mean, it's. I was thinking, like, what's going to happen? Is like Israel going to send fighter jets to the Netherlands and like bomb the International Criminal Court? It almost looks like that is something that could happen. I mean, you can be sure they want to go and bomb the ICC. Now, the next thing that is strange, and it's in the same concept as the Sun, void, of course, conjunct the JFK assassination chart. I'll make a little, I'm going to mark that JFK so you can see that, and I'm going to put a pink arrow, no, orange, at the Sun and the JFK Sun to make this a little easier for you to see. Be brave. Read these charts. Ask me questions. Is that the Moon, at the moment that these indictments are announced, is conjunct asteroid Pandora. This makes me nervous, along with a number of other little things in this chart that make me nervous, which is that this could be opening the door to something much bigger, something that is unexpected, something we're not planning, something not seeing. Pandora's box, the myth of Pandora, is the box is opened and all of the pestilences come out, and at the bottom there is the last and worst of all the pestilences, which is hope. Right? Hope is this anesthesia that keeps people from taking action, from acting in any kind of a relevant, meaningful, or serious way. As long as you're hopeful, you don't have to do anything. You can just hope, and everything is great. All right, so let's take up one last thing. Once again, the family Hunger Games pattern shows up as prominent in this in this chart. And this pattern I've been talking about now since June, and it has as its kind of point of origin in early Capricorn the centaur Pholus. Pholus is the second centaur discovered after Chiron, and while Chiron tends to be very slow in action and directly oriented on healing and healing crisis and the concentration of power and ability through the process of healing one's injuries, Pholus has a different kind of action, which is to release the problems, to unleash a kind of a thing that was previously contained under pressure for generations. And the whole family cluster, the whole family Hunger Game cluster, is something that has been under pressure for generations. And this is now, it remains in a 90-degree aspect to the lunar nodes, which are, for the time being, in Aries and Libra, working their way back. But we still have important elements of this pattern at the bending. Nothing happens without addressing these. And the patterns at the bending are Ixion, which is about amoral cruelty, and it also happens that Sappho, which is the two little Venus symbols, which looks either like the DoubleTree Sweets logo or the kind of lesbian logo, two women, two female symbols together, is conjunct Ixion. And while I've seen Sappho manifest as an indicator of lesbianism, I've also seen it act in the way that it more often acts, which is a gathering point. And so there is this gathering point around cruelty. And we have to make our own decisions about this, and the decisions need to be made consciously and articulated somewhere to someone that this is just simply wrong. Most people, whatever this is just simply wrong. Most people just kind of hang out and think, oh, they don't want to say anything. It might be wrong. Just because I won't go over to my Jewish friends' houses and accuse them of being the new Hitler, or the Hitler Youth, doesn't mean that I'm not doing my best to speak up. But I'll tell you, as a public commentator, it was especially initially frightening, especially before the students got involved, which gave all of us something to write about. So continued accolades to students around the country and around my alma mater, the SUNY system, for throwing their bodies into the machine. So mind you, this Capricorn cluster now has a number of points. It's got Ixion and it's got Sappho. Quatuor, a family influence, exactly conjunct Pholus, kind of two very powerful ancestral influences, as if this is just kind of like some scene in the Bible, like just a rent in the earth opening up and all of the demons and the bad karma coming out and kind of coming back to us, which is kind of what this is. We're really looking at a whole lot of family karma coming out here. And then finally, Cupido is involved. Cupido is another point of gathering. So there is a kind of a gathering going on in early Capricorn. Square the lunar node, saying, deal with it or else. Now, if we look all the way opposite this, you can see I've indicated the 4 points of this Grand Cross with red bars around the outside of the wheel, the outside of the just interior of the outside wheel, and then drawn in the kind of squarish looking shape. Opposite all of this are two slow-moving points, one centaur, one trans-Neptunian object, an actual thing with a body, chaos conjunct Asbolus. And this, to me, is about emotional survival. And it's an indicator that many people are in this desperate state of emotional survival, even as the Gazans and the Palestinians in the West Bank are being decimated back on various home fronts. So too are many people's emotional lives laying in a kind of a desperate and tattered state, and people not really having any concept of how to pull themselves out of that or make friends, because now anything you say is divisive, and if anyone speaks for more than 5 minutes to any other person, they will offend them. So if you want if you want like exercise, you want to go to the I'm not offended by anything gym, just watch 20 or 30 episodes of South Park, and you'll realize how stupid it is to get offended. Okay, so finally, in the grand scheme of things, this event is taking place as part of the developing and about to be developing rapidly conjunction of Chiron and Eris in Aries. That really manifests in the spring of 2025 and then again in the spring of 2026. It's a long span, but we're in the era now. We've seen this one before from like 1969 to 1973, and it was exact in 71 and 72, but it was well expressing itself in the very last years of the 60s and then into the 1970s, despite the epicenter being right in 71, 72, the influence branches out. So what we are seeing is part of this, and this just simply highlights the need to self-actualize, to fully incarnate as yourself, and have some guts and some chutzpah, and to bring out the you that you contain inside. Okay, so I'm going to now do the regular edition of StarCast and then get back to the Awakening, your 2025 annual readings. These are my magnum opus as an astrologer. I've passed the halfway point as of about 3 o'clock this morning, and I'm now moving on to the Libra reading. These are 12 audio and written readings that are available for pre-sale right now. They come with an ebook, so you have something new to read about the astrology of 2025 and 2026 immediately. The ebook is not too long; it's not too short. If you print it out, it'll take you a few sessions to read it, and it's worth studying. And I'm going to do my level best, as Ronald Reagan used to say, to get this whole package in your hands by New Year's Eve. Write me a little emails wishing me luck, and sign up for this thing, because you will be glad that you have it. There is in the world right now very little positive influence. Very little to say you can do it. It is your birthright to be who you are, to manifest your life in a way that truly expresses your internal being. And I am one of those people who knows what I'm talking about and can make a very convincing and informative case that despite the insanity and despite the madness and despite the negativity and the loneliness and the digitization of the planet and all things seeming to go bad, that you are a bright spot in this world, and it is up to you to bring in the truth of your being, and it ain't up to anybody else. But I am here to offer what information, wisdom, and knowledge that I have. Okay, signing off for now. I will see you over at the other Starcast, the one that is being distributed with the horoscope. Please use the comments if you have questions, if you have observations, if you see something I have missed in this chart or you have a question about, please type that in. I am one of these people who not only doesn't think there's any such thing as a stupid question, I believe that the ability to formulate any question is a sign of kind of a crystal of understanding. All right, signing off from Kingston, 1:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, moments away from the sun's ingress into Sagittarius. Lots of love, and bye for now.